Hello and welcome back to Christian Catch Up, where we discuss all things life through a Christian perspective. I'm your host, Chloe Knight, and to the side of me, I have the wonderful Mel and Dawn. And on today's episode, we're going to be discussing comparison. Now, in today's society anyway, why do you think so many people struggle with comparison at the rate that they do?
Social media.
Yeah.
In social media, we were not designed as people to see so many other people. I'm so sorry. Especially because we have so much access now into the lives of people that we probably wouldn't have had before. Example, I feel like before the internet, so let's go back a few hundred years, obviously poorer people knew that there were richer people and they understood that there were more things that they would have, but it was more in their imagination. They had to imagine what they might have had because they weren't privy to the knowledge of what was exactly in the house or how much money they had or whatever it might be. Whereas now we know every little detail. We know what someone has in their house. We know what they're buying. We know how much money's in their bank account. And seeing that makes us feel bad about ourselves because we don't have that. And I just feel like being able to have that access just readily available at your fingertips, Instagram, Twitter, all of that, and you're scrolling mindlessly every day, all day, if that's what you do, you're just constantly feeding yourself with the fact that there are people out there that have more than you, are doing better than you, look better than you. And if your self-esteem isn't, first of all, rooted in Christ, and if it's not very strong, if that foundation there is a bit wobbly, yeah, it can take a toll on your mental, for real.
Yeah, 100%. That's why I take detoxes from social media, because as I've always said, we're all human. I think the natural desire is to be seen and to be loved. And, when someone has something that you don't, it's easy to maybe build up hatred or build up jealousy or something like that. And when you're so in tune with God and God, you're walking in the Spirit, God is going to convict you of your areas that need improvement. And I feel like for me, social media was definitely, I definitely did get caught up with the vanity and, that whole, I don't know if you guys know, like 2016, the whole light skin era, light skins were a trend and all of that.
That's how Tennessee became popular, and then built on it. It's a brand now.
Yeah, I think, it just blew up my head and, there was a standard that I felt like I needed to upkeep, and I was comparing myself. And I was the most miserable I was ever in my life because, then when I did get rejected or I wasn't seen or I wasn't heard and I thought that my looks were everything, my identity just came crashing down. And I think now being rooted in God and what God has called me to do and be it really helps me. And, in the word when it says, let everyone examine their own work so they will take pride in themselves and not compare themselves to others. God says that for a reason. He doesn't want us to be caught up in other people too much, because we will end up comparing at some point, I think. Yeah.
So obviously the older we've got, the more we've realized that there's a variety of races, and we've understood that how society treats you depending on how you look is a very true factor. And even though luckily for us we are educated to know better, that through Christ we have to love everybody equally, and it's fantastic that that's the learning curve that we're going to, but we still have social media about. How, I know you mentioned detoxes, but how else are you managing this? Because we can detox, but then what happens in 2 weeks' time and you go back and you look at Beyonce, Rihanna, and they're just in your face, and they're beautiful, amazing women, but at the same time, it's hard to compare yourself with these people that are in the billions tax bracket, you know?
You know, I think actually it then really is then going back to Christ and asking God what it is that he wants out of your life. Because if you look at your Beyoncé's, your Rihanna's, you know, for me, Cardi B, who I absolutely adore. But anyway, personality.
We don't condone
Everything else now. But I think it's more than, I look at the music that they make and I'm like, for me, my walk with Christ, I couldn't do that because I don't think that glorifies God. So then it's like, okay, yeah, they have the millions, but that's what they're having to do to get the millions. I wouldn't do that. So therefore, I don't want their life. Then I look at, you know, the fact that they are these women that we look up to, and well, not look up to, but look at and say they're so beautiful, yet they go under the knife, they change their nose, they change their lips, they change their body. And I'm like, well, then something there is still, you know, they still don't have the confidence that I think they have. I don't want to change anything about myself. So then maybe that means the confidence God has given me is enough. So I don't want their life. I have to literally go through, and it's based on my relationship with Christ, what I have believed that God has asked out of my life, what he talks to me and tells me about me, who he's called me to be, has to be enough. And that only comes from speaking to God, reading his word, understanding who I am in him, understanding that I'm his child. And the more I talk to God about my life and he talks back to me about my life, it then stops me from looking at other people and saying, oh, I wish I had that and I wish I had that. Because actually, the more he talks to me about my life, it becomes enough. And then I don't want more. So yeah.
That's it's a lot of social pressure, I would say, at that point. And social pressure comes in many different forms, especially as women. We've mentioned it previously, where as women, when are you going to have kids? What do you look like? Are you a Proverbs 31 woman? Can you be Nora Smith? Can you do all these things? And it's heartbreaking that they're held to such a high standard that is impossible to be perfect, because we're not perfect. The only person that was perfect was Jesus, and we're just striving to be, you know, little mini Christ roaming the earth as Christians to try and be the best representatives as possible. But when we're in that kind of expectation, what would you say to younger people, especially younger women, who are saying, well, Nora's doing it, so why can't I do it? Or she's handling it this well, and now she's got 14 businesses, now she's a millionaire before 12. And it's just like, sometimes we can be at a loss for these young girls, because the truth is we didn't see that at 12.
Yeah,
12 years old was not the 12 years old it is today.
yes, you know.
And I'm happy that technology's advanced, because it can be a beautiful thing if used correctly, but it is a heartbreaking thing to feel that much pressure, especially with women. So when you're looking at these younger children, what would you say to them if they're feeling this kind of pressure of, when are you going to have kids? When can you be this perfect Proverbs 31 woman? What are you going to say to them?
Yeah, I think that it's important to know that what is being displayed is not always the truth.
Million percent.
People could be going through the worst heartbreak of their life, sat in bed, but their managers posting them from 5 months back on holiday. You know, like, we never actually know what people are going through. So I think that also helps me, not in terms of like, haha, like, I know you're suffering. Not
But it's real, you know, it's the reality.
I think it's just, you know, people want to display perfection, and there's just no such thing. No one has it all together. You can have the millions, you can have the money, you can have the status, you can have everything, but if you're empty inside, you know, are you really living? Are you really enjoying life? Are you really flourishing? Are you really at peace?
Yeah, because the truth is, you can compare yourself to every person under the sun, but the only person you go to bed with at night is yourself. So you need to be confident in yourself and talk to yourself that you're your own best friend, because the reality is nobody's going to come and save you. Nobody's going to give you this reassurance. The only person that's going to be doing that is God. So realistically, you need to align with his values on what he's saying in order to go and have a successful and peaceful life at least, because you are deserving of that. You deserve to have a peaceful, transformative, godly, amazing life. And I just want to grab a hold of these kids and I just want to shake them and be like, it's not that deep. Like, I promise you, this boy, your best friend, all these people, they can come and go. The only person that remains is you and God. So just work on that relationship first, please. And then anything else repels off you like water. In today's society, how do you cope with comparing yourself to other women, other people, and how do you keep your faith strong during that journey, would you say?
It's interesting because I feel like our conversation has really been about how we can do that for ourselves, you know? But I think it really starts from your parents, because I don't know about you guys, but when I was growing up, especially in school, this is where I feel like it started for me. I'd come home with my grades and my mum would be like, so and so got that grade. Why couldn't you? It's like, damn. And that really used to get me down. In fact, I feel like in previous episodes, we've talked about the fact that I really hate school. And actually, part of the reason I hated school was because I never felt good enough. It was always just like, that person's getting a higher grade than me, that person's doing better than me, and it will never be good enough. And that is where it started. And it was only as I got older, I realized from those small things that my mum would say, obviously, like, shout out to her, she understands that it was wrong now.
We love our lead.
Love her. But, you know, those small comments then builded into bigger things, because it went from her talking about grades to then me myself like, oh, I don't look like that person, that person's hair is like that, and that person's got those shoes, and it just got bigger and bigger and bigger until eventually I wasn't even happy with anything about myself. Like, I'd literally wake up hating myself. And it was only when I really, really came back to God and was just like, God, you said you've made me unique. You said you've made me in your image. You said that I am more precious than rubies and stones. So I had to then really unlearn all of what I had put into myself and start to tell myself, no, this is what God says about me. And I feel like, first of all, comparison is a thief of all joy. That is what it did. It robbed
Everyone
me
needs to get a tattoo of that. Okay, actually, no, sorry, my bad. Everyone needs a slip of that to put in their purse. When I do tattoos, okay?
Like, I was miserable for years because I was just comparing myself to people. But I feel like it starts with your parents. Like, your parents need to pour into you. You've done this, well done. You are beautiful. You are unique. You are... I watch on TikTok now where, you know, parents talk about gentle parenting. That's a conversation for another day. However,
that was a thing back then.
But I feel like the way that they talk to their children in terms of telling them, you did that, well done, you know, cheering them for everything they've done, or, you know, telling them how special they are. I'm like, actually, that's good, because what they're doing is, it's classical conditioning. They're conditioning them to celebrate everything that they do, telling them how great they are, because then they grow up with that voice remains in their head telling them, I'm good at this. Do you know what I mean? So I feel like it starts with your parents. Your parents need to pour into you, and then when you start to develop that relationship with God for yourself, his word then adds to that, and it then becomes less about, you know, coming from you yourself, like, oh yeah, my mom said that I'm this. It then becomes, God says I'm this. Do you know what I mean? So I feel like it starts with your parents, and then it becomes your relationship with Christ, and then it builds from there. But I feel like if you don't have that foundation where your parents are pouring into you in that way, it's a slippery slope, man.
I definitely compared myself academically to everyone. I had a lot of people around me that were overachievers. You know, they were good at everything, and or were at least active in everything. And I was just a bit like, oh, I'm not good at school, so I'm not good at anything. Because I came home to, you know, my parents, or at least my dad, he cared about my education more than anything. So I was like, that, I guess, is the most important thing in life, you know, the key to life and everything. And then when I was failing in that, I was like, that equals to, I'm not good enough in my dad's eyes, or I'm not loved in my dad's eyes, which obviously is not right. He loves me, but it's like, they need to articulate it in a different way. So yeah, I definitely had a little bit of a rocky foundation, but how I manage it today is like, when God says to guard your heart, if there are things that you feel yourself becoming a bit maybe jealous of or wanting or comparing yourself to, just remove it. If it's on social media, remove it. You don't need to be seeing it. You don't need to be taking yourself through that extra torment. If all your feed is, I don't know, girls, buying cars or buying a house or apartment, getting married, all of that, like, if that is what you're seeing every single day and that's what you don't have and you are struggling with it, just remove it. It's not hate, it's not anything. It's just you guarding your heart, and it's you being honest as well to God, just saying, I'm struggling with this, like, and I don't want to be seeing it right now. Maybe there will be a season where I can be truly happy, but for now I'm not. And it's like just being honest as well. And I feel like not, showing any hate toward the person that is struggling with jealousy or whatever the case may be, because it also just comes from an insecure place. So, yeah, I think that's just the way I handle it, at least with social media. And then just being in my word and making sure that I know who I am in God, and that everything is, as you said, I am unique. And yeah.
That's amazing, because one thing I want to say to younger people, which it's like, oh, that's rude, you can't block them. The block button is your best friend. Don't be scared to use it.
Block guys.
Yeah.
Block guys.
Yeah. We're blocking everybody. Okay? Blocking everybody. And it's okay. It's genuinely okay to protect yourself. The only people that benefit from you not having boundaries is for the people who abuse them.
Oh yeah.
Yes. So I did not hear that. I read that. It wasn't me. That was not me. Seeing English over here. But I'm glad we touched on the topic. I cannot wait to see you again next week. My favorite people in the world, man. I love you both so, so much. But that's it, guys, for this week. Please check out our podcast on YouTube, Spotify, and Apple Podcasts. And as always, you can check out our social media on TikTok and Instagram. Well, until next week, I'm Chloe Knight. Bye-bye.